Hello! So anyone that follows my channel knows that I build all these pedals. And anybody that follows my channel knows that my pedals generally look like shit, right? So these are ones that I basically threw some spray paint at to give them a little bit of something. And then I've got dynamo labels all over them. I quite like them. I quite like the kind of homemade, functional, industrial nature of them. But I've always kind of wanted to try something a wee bit fancier. Now, I've got a company and I do all the audio and video and with my business partner Kenneth, and he does all the graphics, and he's a Adobe Photoshop Illustrator wizard. As a result, like, I pick up all these skills, but I've always kind of left the kind of illustration skills behind because he's always been by my side doing all that. So I'm a bit backwards when it comes to doing graphics and stuff. And I've done like graphics for album covers and things. Very often I do that in Final Cut Pro because I know how that works. I know how to create filters, make things look good, and I know how to make something the right size in terms of pixels. Now, for this, I need to make something the right size in terms of physical IRL, physics, lengths, etc. So the obvious thing that I can find to do that, or the obvious thing in my arsenal, is Pages on Apple. But obviously you could do this with other things. Illustrator, I'm guessing, is the Adobe version. Does it tell you lengths? Possibly, who knows? I guess it probably does. So the first one that I'm going to give a go to is this chorus that I built from Music Ding. So you basically, without the innards of the pedal, you have this metal box with holes in it. Now here's the theory, right? You kind of scrape it down with sandpaper to just make sure it's nice and smooth. Then you spray it with primer, spray, right? Then you spray it with colour spray, which I have bought. Cha-ching. Then you print out a graphic on a transparent label, a transparent sticky thing. Cut it out with a craft knife, stick it on top of the dry paint, and then cover the whole thing over with clear coat, and that kind of locks everything in together. That is my theory. I'm going to film it so that I can take you on this journey of how I'm going to do it, and you can comment. Or maybe this, if it's a real disaster, nobody's ever going to see this, right? But that's where we're up to. Okay, so I have opened up a fresh window on Pages, right? Now, I'm not a massive expert in Pages, but I think I'm going to get away with this. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Right, we're going to create a shape, which is the pedal, right? Now, the advantage of Pages is if I do that, you can see that the dimensions appear, right? So, back to video, right? If we do a wee look here, right, then we're getting 65 millimeters. Let me see. Then we're getting 64 millimeters by 11.8 centimeters. 6.4 centimeters by 11.8 centimeters. Right, so we just make our 11.8, 6.4. There we go. Right. Now, I think you can do that here, right? So we can. It jumps in half centimeter increments, right? But it allows us to type stuff in, right? So we can do something exact. So that's the space that we've got to play with. let me find a good zoom level, right? Now, obviously, I'm not going to print that rectangle. So that rectangle is going to be white, right? But I'll put in a border where I'm going to cut, right? And then that is going to be the size of the sheet of adhesive sticky stuff that I'm going to put on top of this pedal, right? Now, if I go through and make all the features, we have a circle for the foot switch, which is 2 centimeters from the bottom. So we're going to create a wee circle, right? And we're going to see where the bottom is. We actually know where the bottom is, right? Sorry. If I press shift while I do that, then it retains its proportions, right? And that circle, I should probably, in an ideal world, I'd have like calipers that did this for me. But that circle is going to be 1.8, right? So hitting shift again so that I can make sure I've got a 1.8. And this will automatically tell me where the center is, right? So I know it's going to be in that line there, right? And I want it to be 2 centimeters from the bottom, right? So at that point, so that's 13.95, so I want it at 11.95. I'm not quite sure what it's measuring, whether it's the center or the bottom, but it doesn't matter because of the way that I did that, because it's relative. And again, I'm going to make that white and I'm going to put a line around it. Now, we don't want to see that line. The advantage of this is for my design, right? The advantage, I think, I'm going in blind, I've not done this before. The advantage of the pedal, because I'm going to cut this out with a craft knife, is that there's going to be a hole. So once I put that adhesive over and I want to make holes in the adhesive transparent, I can go round a metal edge with a craft knife. So I'll delete this circle before I print it out, but it's there to give me something to put text and things around, right? Now, we have the LED bevel. I could also check online how big these things are, but that looks like 8mm, right? So I'm going to make another circle, or I can duplicate this one. If I press Option while I drag that, it will duplicate, right? Then we have that LED bevel, which is going to go up there, right? Now, the center of it is going to be, so that's where our LED is going to go, right? And then the only thing we've got left is these underneath there. Now, I really like these. I don't know where I got them. Amazon. I really like these knobs. But so under there, we need to know two things. We need to know where the center of those circles are, right? And then we need to know how wide they are so that we can kind of design around those. There we go. That looks about plumb, right? So we've got this space here where I'm going to put the text of the title, and then we have these knobs, right? So on the left we have rate, and on the right we have depth. So I put in some text, and choruses are always heavenly, right? This is called the angel chorus when you buy it from Music Den. And there's always like floaty, cloudy, heaveny. I'm not really sure why. I find chorus could be a bit kind of plastic warble. But yeah, for some reason they're always described as chorus, even chorus, a choir of angels, right? angel heavenly, right? So I'm going to call this, because I was a teenager in the 90s, I'm going to call this the dove from above, right? And then we try and find some, I want something very clean. Is that only going to come in capitals? Yes, that only comes in capitals. I quite like lowercase. So I know that doesn't look centered, but it's centered in that box, which is the important thing, right? So if we shrink this down, it's quite annoying working with text in Pages, right? And we get that there. I said I wanted quite plain text, but that's feeling a bit too plain. So I want somewhere a bit more fun. No. I hate choosing fonts. So I kind of know what I'm looking for here, but what I would do is find free font heavenly, right? And then it'll give me various options. I know I'm not going to like them because they're going to, but as soon as you say heaven, it's going to be for funeral intimation cards and weddings. Ironically, death and weddings go well together. So I know that's not my version of heaven, if you like. So I'm going for something clean but fun, right? I use Courier. I know it's called American Typewriter, but it's a variation in Courier. I use Courier far too often. I don't want, that's Comic Sans. I want, let's try this one. That's more like it. Unthreatening, rounded, right? Now, we're already starting to run out of space. I quite like that. That's driving the, I'm talking utter shite now. That's kind of driving the eye down the pedal. Right. And we're going to make that big enough. As big as it can be without me feeling like it's in danger of going over the edges or threatening the really dodgy dimensions that I've put in. Right, so let's crop that until it can be cropped no more, because in my experience that makes Pages perform better, right? So that should be roughly centered. I'm going to put it a wee bit higher up because I want to put something here, right? Now, what did I say? This is rate and this is depth. So we want the same text. Right, so that looks pretty plumb, right? The obvious things that I'm looking for is, now in a proper graphics person would have like margin lines where you didn't want to go too close so that it doesn't fall off the edge, right? So I want to keep it relatively simple. We're going to have it sky blue, but I also want to put a bit of a graphic on it. Now, if you go to Google and you type in, I don't know, heart PNG, right? Then you'll find a PNG. I'm writing PNG because you get them, you make them transparent. without worrying too much about it. And then we take this heart, right, and we try and get to where I get to download it, right? Let's see, I bet it doesn't work, right, when I do this. Yes, there we go. So it's going to make you sign up to some subscription. It's an endless hell, because it looks free and then it's not free, right? You can basically do that with any PNG. Now, eagle-eyed users will notice I changed browser. For some reason, my Safari is not opening some websites, but I still prefer Safari to Chrome, and I don't know why. But there is a website called Pixabay, right, which is good for stock footage and stuff like that, which is free. It tries to, you'll find the absolute perfect thing you're looking for in the sponsored images up here, which try and get you to pay for it in iStock, which I'm not against, but at the same time, this is a free project that I'm not meant to be spending money on. So, angels, wings, right? And this will give us vectors, which means that you can make them bigger or smaller. In most cases, we are going to make them much, much smaller. And I am going to take this here, right? And then download a PNG after what I said about vectors. I'm going to go into my downloads. Then I'm going to go back to pages. And I'm going to drag it in. Okay, now again we press shift and we shrink that down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this above the LED like that, much, much smaller, of course. All right. Right, so I quite like that. The light's going to come on below those little wings. It does from above. Right, and then for these dials, I'm going to try and do something else, just because I can. So back to Pixabay, say thanks to Clicker Free Vector Images. There we go. So that's official. I've said thanks to them. And I want to say dial and clock faces and there we go, there's something nondescript. So what I'm thinking is to put them protruding from below those gold knobs. Oh, this software hates me. I don't know what the terminology is for stop getting in my road. Or I don't mind if objects sit on top of each other. Oh, I think I may have fixed it. And annoyingly, I don't know how. So there we go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm printing it out in black and white because that's what my printer does. I decided to go for a black and white LaserJet some time ago rather than a lesser colour inkjet. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the saturation off those dials, which are kind of brown, and that'll just make sure that I'm seeing everything how it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that and take everything. Come on, right. And I'm going to delete the circles. Right, so that there is what I'm actually going to print. These are in line, but this tooth of that circle is higher than that tooth. So getting wee bits there. I could rotate the image by 1%. I wonder if I can line them up. Wrong way. I could rotate the image by -1%. Does that look better or worse? I think that looks better. Right. So there we go. First stage is I'm going to print it out on paper and just make sure that it makes sense. But first I'm going to take all the innards out of the pedal. So when you're doing that, you need to decouple the 9-volt power supply. Then that's going to sit in a box until I fix it. And then, Scotland being Scotland, I need to do this outside because I don't really have an art studio that I want to cover in spray paint. So I'm going to do it outside in a cardboard box. So it's going to be 2 coats. It's going to be a coat of primer, then I have to wait for it to dry, then a coat of paint, then I have to wait for it to dry, assuming neither of those need multiple coats. And then put on the transparent, and then a coat of varnish, clear coat, and then wait for it to dry. So that's potentially 3 dry afternoons in Scotland. So it could be a 6-month or 5-year process for me to be free in all those afternoons. But I've done this much. So, skiddly-boo, skiddly-boo, skiddly-boo. I have dismantled my chorus pedal from the innards and put the innards in a wee box. And that's what I'm left with. I filmed it, but I forgot to press record, and throughout I was just thinking, why on earth am I telling people I've done this? It's so obvious. So there we go. So I've printed out my, this is obviously not on transparent sticky, but this is me just testing things. I will do the final with a ruler, but in the meantime, so I don't know if you can see, it's not bad. I think it'll be good for a first attempt. I'll have to cut it out quite exact, and then those dials aren't looking centred, but for it to be centred it would be kind of up there. So the plan is that I won't really have to do this with the transparent, because it will be attached to the enclosure. So hopefully it will just be flush to the enclosure, and I'll be sticking it on and once it's stuck on I'll be able to, you know, just shave off the inside. Time will tell. I don't know why I left on the guides for those but not for those, but I think once I kind of line it up with that hole, it is a wee bit better. So frustratingly, the dials could be a wee bit higher, which would take away the space for rating depth, which would be quite annoying. So you can see if I get the bottom ones look good, the LED and the foot switch, but this, I mean, it's hard to tell because of how much I've butchered it, but you can see that the space between the bottom of that circle and the edge of the dial is much bigger. So I might just lose the dials. I wasn't really that keen on them anyway. I was kind of just putting them on for the sake of it. So we'll aim for less is more, I think. So I'm glad I did this bit. That's the conclusion. So the next stage is I'm going to sand it down, and then we are looking at a sunny day. So hopefully there's more of them, because it's too late in the day today. To be continued. So here we go, after 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of paint. It's meant to dry in 3 hours, but does it not? Still homemade, so you've got these wee flecks of metal, so I can maybe sand it more. And then it has dripped after the fact, so I can't be bothered doing a 3rd coat because it takes ages to dry. It says 45 minutes touch dry and 3 hours totally dry, but the bottom there's still wet. And that's after like a day. That's just where it's been sitting on the box, which is quite annoying. So when I do it again, I'm going to make sure that I get better coverage. I did the first few coats indoors in the cellar, and then outdoors after that. I don't have a big massive workshop space where I could make lots and lots of mess, so I was trying to keep the mess to a minimum, but I'm quite happy with it. It's quite cool. Right. So the next plan is, you can see when I've not quite got the coverage there, so I absolutely need to soak it, I think, which will then take even longer to dry. So a stray eyelash got in there. So I have my design and I have it printed out on this vinyl paper. The alternative is to do it on, what do you call it, wet decal paper. Water slide decals. And I'm going to do that with the next one. But with this one, the idea with the vinyl paper is that everything would be in the same place. But I have since decided to get rid of the dials that were around the knobs, because I thought they were pretty superfluous. And all I really need to line up is that to be around the LED hole. So these are the black bits are my guidelines. I pulled off a wee bit at the side because I had a wee test bit and I found it quite difficult. But I think it was a small bit of paper. So we'll see what happens. I'll try not to get stray paint on the top of it. So I'm going to cut just inside these black lines. I will line it up with oh, that did not go well. So that manages to slide out from under the ruler / spirit level, even when I'm putting down a fair amount of weight on it. So these were just done on a black and white laser printer, and I printed out test so that I could rub it and see if it wiped away, and it didn't. So I was going to try and round off the corners on this, but I decided not to bite off more than I could chew. So does it go over the corners? I think we'll be okay, especially for a first attempt. So here goes. I am convincing myself that I can resand and start again if need be. Press C. So I'm starting in the middle because I basically want that little bit to be lined up. Okay, so then we want to I need a rolling pin. So I'm kind of moving it in the light to try and find those little air pockets, of which there are absolutely loads. So the good news is that the print is definitely not coming off, but the rough metal is creating a bit of a texture. Now if this was one big one, I could kind of prick it and move the air out, but there's lots of wee ones. Okay, so far from perfect, but in the right light, I got the effect that I was looking for. So I will make these holes. I don't need to worry too much about the edge of this because there's going to be a washer over it. So I've kind of folded it. It was slightly too long, a couple of millimeters. I've kind of folded it down and I can't quite see the edge now, so it's kind of the least of my worries. There we go. That's not bad for a first attempt. Right, so the next stage is a couple of coats of clear coat. I don't think I can really improve this much. There we go, so that's what it looks like at the moment. Oh, when did that happen? That's quite annoying. I'm going to give it an extra coat of the blue stuff. That must have come off when I was taking it off its cardboard box. So I will cover the top with masking tape.
Daddy, I love you.
So here we go, the varnish is dry. It has been a learning experience. I'm definitely not going into commercial production. The vinyl sticker is a bit of a disaster.
Why you couldn't get it off?
I just couldn't. The vinyl sticker's been a bit of a disaster. I'm definitely going with water slide decals. It's come off with the varnish at the side. It will stay on once I've put on the knobs and bells and whistles, but it's also, there's different colours and it's stuck at different levels. The varnish kind of bumfles.
Can you show me how to paint that?
I will do. The varnish kind of bumfles. So you get these wee bits here, I don't know whether to sand them down.
I've got a blue ball.
I definitely learnt a few things. I think I was a bit rushed with trying to get the paint on, so it's better to do multiple coats. I think I need to hang it possibly, like from a hook, so that it's not like gathering right around the corner, right around the edge. That's what's happened here. It was sitting in a shoebox, and as I've pulled it off, it's pulled off the paint. So I'm dead happy I've done it, but as I say, I'm not going to go into commercial production. You can see where the paint's run there. But there we go, my first graphic art. So I'll try and put the bits in. And then
Dad, are you gonna do this one?
The tilt from above. The tilt from above. The tilt from above. Let's see if she'll come down.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, thanks for all your help.